right, a marvelous work and a wonder. Chapter 27. By their fruits ye shall know them. Our claims to the visitation of the Father and the Son and the visits of other heavenly messengers to restore all things, including the restoration of the holy priesthood, giving us a better philosophy of life and better understanding of the Scriptures, would be of little weight and consequence if the fruits of the church did not bear witness of the truth of these claims. Jesus said, "Beware of false prophets, which do come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bringeth forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth forth not good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them." This is Matthew 5:15-20. Every church and people must be willing to stand upon this test. Ideals and objectives of the church. Some of the lofty ideals and objectives of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are stated in these quotations. Quote, "Men are that they might have joy," 2 Nephi 2:25. "The glory of God is intelligence," D&C 93:36. "As God is, man may become," Eliza R. Snow, Biography and Record of Lorenzo Snow. "Whatever principle of intelligence we attain to unto this life, it will rise with us in the resurrection. And if a person gains more knowledge and intelligence in this life through his diligence and obedience than another, he will have so much the advantage in the world to come." D&C 130, 18-19. "It is impossible for a man to be saved in ignorance." Doctrine and Covenants 131:6. "Seek ye diligently, and teach one another words of wisdom. Yea, seek ye out of the best books words of wisdom. Seek learning, even by study, and also by faith." D&C 88:118. The Church and Education. Guided and inspired by such divine injunctions, the Church could be expected to achieve much in the establishment of schools and in the pursuit of education. Some years ago, the editors of the Church official magazine, The Improvement Era, Elder John A. Woodstow of the Council of 12 and Elders Richard L. Evans, who later is called to the 12, wrote the following concerning some of the teachings and accomplishments of the Church. Within a year of the organization of the Church in 1831, provision was made for schools, teachers, and school books. A little later, in 1833, a school for mature men, known as the School of the Prophets, was conducted. This anticipated the present worldwide movement of adult education. In 1842, when the Missouri refugees were building the city of Nauvoo, a university was founded. On the trek westward, following the expulsion from Nauvoo, school sessions were held in moving camps. A few weeks after reaching Salt Lake Valley, school instruction was begun in the sage-encircled pioneer log cabins. One of the first legislative acts after provision had been made for the roads in the wilderness was chartering in 1850 of a university, the first west of the Missouri River. And that was the first one west of Missouri. That would be... Did California not have anything? Interesting. Really? Okay. Since then, the people, despite the toil of compelling a stubborn desert to severe Since then, the people, despite the toil of compelling a stubborn desert to serve civilized man, have fostered the training of the mind with all the attendant arts and cultures. The need and value of education have never been forgotten by the Latter-day Saints, despite the material cost. What are the results of this century-long support for education? The Latter-day Saints have always been a literate people. The 7th census of the United States was in 1850. In that year, the average percentage of illiteracy in the United States was 4.92. The Utah percentage was only 0.25, the lowest of the states and territories cited. In 1923, a carefully A careful educational survey of the stakes of Zion showed that the literacy of the church was about 97%. It was found that about 60 Latter-day Saints in every 1,000 attended high school, more than 3 times the average of the United States at that time, and that about 9 in 1,000 were in attendance at colleges and universities, nearly twice the average for the United States. The survey also indicated a large preponderance of college graduates, of holders of master's and doctorate degrees, above any other group of like numbers in America or the world. More students graduate from college in Utah in proportion to the state's population than any other state. The Latter-day Saint student conceives his schoolwork to be part of his purposeful preparation for eternal life and joy. With this doctrine in mind, the Church has always made religion accompany secular education. The training of the whole man has been the objective of the Latter-day Saints. In schools maintained by the Church funds, religion has always been a part of the curriculum. When the school became state-sponsored, a system of supplementary seminaries and institutions was organized, supported by Church funds, in which religious training is offered at convenient free hours to high school and college students. Moreover, the Church maintains Brigham Young University and Rick's Junior College, in both of which religion is freely taught. At the close of the first century, since the pioneers undertook to make the great deserts of the West their home, the Latter-day Saints presents a picture of educational achievement second to none in America or in the world. The educational level of Latter-day Saints, the Improvement Era, July 1947, page 444 through 445. Well, that's a lot of pages. Either that or it's organized in a funny way. Today, the Church operates Brigham Young University, Provo, Utah, the largest private institution of higher education in the United States, with a branch campus of the Church College of Hawaii in Laie, Hawaii, Rick's College in Rexburg, Idaho, now called BYU, Idaho, and smaller colleges, high schools, and elementary schools in New Zealand, some of the island of the Pacific, Mexico, South America. In addition to hundreds of thousands of Latter-day Saints youths and college-age students are enrolled in seminaries and institutes of religion throughout the world, where they study the scriptures, church history, and other religious subjects as a balance to their secular education. While statistics on the results of the Church's emphasis on education are not available for the Church as a whole, studies have been concluded comparing the achievements of the population of Utah, which is predominantly Latter-day Saint, with other states of the United States. Dr. Clark Kerr, chairman of the Carnegie Council on Policy Studies and Higher Education, made the following remarks at the commencement of the exercises at the University of Utah in June 1974. Utah stands first in the percentage of total population age 3 to 34 enrolled in school. Utah stands first in the percentage in the total population enrolled in school at every age level, except ages 16 to 17, where Minnesota ranks first. Utah stands as the first in average years of school completed for all of its citizens, age 25 and older. Utah stands high in the net in-migration of its institutions of higher education. Utah stands first in its expenditures on the operating programs of medical schools per 100,000 of personal income in the state. The Carnegie Commission on Higher Education surveyed the performance of higher education in each of the 50 states. It found Utah, unlike many states, to have no major deficiencies. Why has Utah done so well? It is neither the richest nor the oldest nor the best located state for educational development. If one could find its secret, perhaps it could be exported elsewhere. But this is not easy, for it is secret. I think is its history. Your early leaders placed a great emphasis on education. May I quote Brigham Young? Education is a good thing, and blessed is the man who has it and can use it. Education should be such as to improve our minds and fit us for increased usefulness, to make us of greater service to the human family. Learn to be good for something. Education is the power to think clearly, to act well in the world's work, and the power to appreciate life. Schools were started here in Utah as the first settlers arrived in tents and even in the open air. One of the first laws passed in 1847 provided for the establishment of a university, and the University of Utah dates its founding to 1850. The university became the first educational institution of higher education west of the Mississippi. It started the first teachers training program in the far west, And the great historical tradition has helped put Utah in the first rank. It can be envied, but unfortunately not duplicated. Utah may now wait for others to catch up, or it may continue to pioneer. I wonder how much has changed since then. I mean, I think this was last updated in the mid-70s. The reason I wonder is because just the whole landscape has changed. The university, because of student loans without the ability to go bankrupt and not pay it back, has made education extremely unaffordable. Like, it's always been pricey. I get that. But the millstone of debt that cinches around your neck if you go into serious amounts of debt for school is tremendous. It's horrific. And the problem I find is that there's a huge undercurrent of public education is not what it used to be, A. And B, and I agree with that, unfortunately. I look at what the public school system is churning out, and I'm horrified. Followed by which, when it comes to college education, I got my bachelor's degree in physics. It has done me nothing. Zero. Why? Because it's just not what the people who were hiring were looking for. If I had gotten my degree in engineering, which probably would have been 2-3 classes different, well, that'd be a different thing. Also, it's a lot of who you know and not what you know, and I didn't exactly have a good spot for actually trying out my skills in physics somewhere to show that I had experience. So there's this just gap with here's what I've learned compared to here's how it's helped me. It's just, it has improved my life. I will absolutely say it taught me that you can do the hard thing, which has helped me in life later. Absolutely. But the actual money I spent on education, nah. It has not helped me other than to improve my life through greater understanding, through greater passion for knowledge. But monetarily, it has not helped me at all. For life, it has helped me. That's how I make the distinction. And so I want education for my children, but at the same time, I have to sit here and weigh, look, do you go to college and get some degree to then go do a customer service job when you can start out that way? Or would it be better for you to go to trade school now? I mean, it's just, life is not the same thing that it used to be. I grew up in a weird age where everyone was like, you have to get a college degree if you're going to get a job. Congratulations. To pick up the phones and help people, you should have a college degree. But because of that perseverance that I was taught, I have been able to go on to do better things. But part of that is just a good work ethic. So at the same time, I sit here and go, I need to figure out how to do things better for my kids or my grandkids. So that way, I want them to be educated, but I want them to have education, like true education, not underwater basket weaving or slimology studies or something, or I want something to actually be quite applicable, because the great people in the industries that you admire are not the ones generally who went through film school and things like that, or if they did, they applied themselves so much. It's always about the experience of the thing. If you want to be an engineer, start engineering and then get your engineering classes. If you want to be a doctor, start learning and acting in any position you can and then go and get it. I would recommend that so much. Anyways, it's just so much has changed between when this was published and now. I wonder if there's a huge difference in the outlook of life, in the outlook of others, because I love education. I just want a better quality of it. and then once you have it mean something. That would be the ideal. And I've had two disconnects with that. Education is not what it used to be because of different factors, and except in certain areas. Like if I said, hey, you are going to go for engineering, go to school. If you're going to be a doctor or lawyer, go to school. Probably a doctor would be better than a lawyer. I know doctors and lawyers are worried about AI taking their job, and AI would definitely assist with doctors, but there's still things that no AI is going to be the one to actually do surgeries. No AI is going to be the one that actually is an anesthesiologist. Not going to happen. On the other hand, lawyers, get good, because it's always like the AI will take the minor jobs, but the major jobs, the arguing ones, I don't know. There's all sorts of weird stuff. Rant over. Let's continue with more fruits of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Ultimately, education, I encourage it wholeheartedly, but do it for something good and worthwhile. Do it for sciences, engineering, medicine, things that you should have to get higher education for. If you're trying to learn how to do, I don't know, just do it for what's right. Other health and other vital statistics. The Church's emphasis on observing the word of wisdom, see chapter 25, has resulted in impressive health statistics. Indicative of this are the data found in the following. The Mormons are interesting from an epidemiological standpoint because of their word of wisdom forbids the use of tobacco, alcohol, coffee, and tea, and addictive drugs. Their religion also stresses the well-balanced diet, particularly the use of wholesome grains and fruits, and moderation in the eating of meat. One could reasonably expect Mormons to experience a low incidence of death from various cancers, similar to that observed in the Seventh-day Adventists. Some indications of their cancer rates can be obtained by studying the state of Utah with its large, mostly Caucasian Mormon population. The most recently available 1970 age-adjusted death rates show that the ratio of Utah mortality in the United States mortality is as follows for the white males: 85% for all causes and 72% for all cancer. For white females, 90% for all causes and 75% for all cancer. Cancer rates and total mortality rates for Utah are the lowest in the United States. Also in the 1970s, per capita consumption of cigarettes, liquor, wine, beer in Utah is approximately 50% of the corresponding consumption in California in the United States and is the lowest in the entire country. This data on the amount of smoking and drinking might account for the lower mortality in Utah. More direct data on Mormon mortality and habits is available. Crude total death rates have been calculated for Mormon and non-Mormon populations in each state, based on the church membership and death records and state population and mortality data. The 1970 crude death rates of 4 states with large Mormon populations show the ratio of Mormons to non-Mormon crude death rates is 62% of the Utah, 61% in Idaho, and 52% in California, and 47% in Nevada. These results should be influenced somewhat by the differences in age distribution between Mormon and non-Mormon populations, but hardly by a factor of 2. Other data on Mormons comes from the results of the 1965 Health and Ways of Living Survey and subsequent follow-up of the probability sample of 6,928 adult residents of Alameda County, California, conducted by Human Population Laboratory of California State Department of Health. Included in the survey were a group of 111 Mormons who have been compared with the total sample. The results show that Alameda County Mormons have an age distribution which is identical to that of other citizens, that 67% of the male Mormons and 76% of the female Mormons do not smoke, compared to 51% of the men and 60% of the women in the total sample, and that 64% of the male Mormons and 59% of the female Mormons do not drink, compared with 16% of men and 29% of the women in the total sample, and that the Mormons have a total mortality rate which is about 55% of the rate of the total sample during the 6.5-year follow-up period. The biggest difference in the habits between Mormons and their total sample occurred among regular church attenders, where essentially 100% of the Mormons do not smoke or drink. Additional results of this study show that Mormons are similar to the total sample in other respects, including socioeconomic status and medical care. The UCLA Cancer Bulletin, published by the Medical Division of the University of California at Los Angeles, May 19, 74. So again, these are all statistics from the mid to late 70s in this book. For fights about health and well-being of the church, there are two contenders nowadays that take center stage: the CES letter and the Light and Truth letter. So the CES letter, I think they talk about the depression rates in Utah being higher than other states around it. They, of course, just attribute that, well, it has to be the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Whereas the Light and Truth letter shows that, no, actually, it's the exact opposite. Everyone who is in the state of Utah, who is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, has a lot less mental and emotional health problems than those who are outside of it in the state. The overall increase of people using antidepressants in the state is correspondent with everyone else who has higher rates that has to do with elevation. There's something odd about being at a higher elevation that makes it so that apparently it makes people more susceptible to being depressed. Yet, being inside the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints helps to reduce the amount of depression that's there by significant amounts, large amounts. So people love to just blame anything that's bad or wrong in Utah on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But the unfortunate thing is that our main center population, which is the Salt Lake Valley, is mostly not members of the church. Whereas surrounding places like rural Utah and Provo Valley do still have a majority of the church in those areas. But there are the two counties which are blue in Utah at many a time are not majority Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I think there is political studies and mental health have shown that if you lean liberal and very Democrat, you have a much higher likelihood of having a lot worse mental and emotional health outcomes. And you can speculate on all sorts of reasons. That's just the data. If I were to speculate on the reasons, it would probably be the fatalistic outlooks between their view on climate change, on the world, on immigration, on and how unfair the world is. You view everything through oppressive lens. Yeah, I could see that being a big reason why. So, on the other hand, just because there's a correlation, that's good guesses at causation. But you got to be very careful about how you make those correlations and causations seem to make sense. Because just the same way where, people are depressed, it's got to be the Church of Jesus Christ because it's a high demand religion, and then people aren't living up to expectations, so it makes them depressed. Like, you can sell it if you want, but the truth is that when you dig into the data and you subdivide the population inside of Utah, you find that those in the church have a lot better health outcomes than those outside of it. Then what is it going to be? That the church is oppressing people? What's the new narrative? So, gotta be careful about how you justify your statistics. The Church Welfare Plan. One of the most important undertakings of the church is its welfare program, a program designed to take from the government relief rolls of all the members of the church. The newspapers and other media throughout the United States have commented favorably about this program. The New York Herald Tribune carried an editorial entitled "Mormons to Lead the Way" and called upon other churches to follow their example. What's funny is that despite all these editorials and despite all these examples of media about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I think that's the church ourselves trying to highlight what we do. Only because I think it's so unknown because of how we do things. We don't advertise on TV, like for example, if I were to say a hospital that is helping cancer patients, the first thing that would come to mind is St. Jude for me. Why? Because every year, especially around the holidays, when you can do charitable donations for taxes, they trot out all the advertisements with kids that have cancer and other things and parents who are grieving and having a hard time to donate to St. Jude's to get funds for their money. The Church of Jesus Christ, I think the most media I've seen on everything that we do is basically in between General Conference. And usually I turn that off because I'm like, all right, it's time to go eat lunch and to relax for a couple hours before back to conference, so I don't even see much of it. So, but there's that kind of spot that says, hey, look at all the church is doing. That's good. Because we don't sit there and publish it in magazines, and we don't publish it. We don't ask for advertisements or anything like that to promote all the welfare and other things that we do. On the other hand, it is known, and it is picked up by newspapers, and it's known by local leaders and such when disasters strike, because we're the first to step up and step in. So there's a lot to be grateful for the church, and I agree we should do more of that. I know Cardin from Ward Radio would be like, we need to sell this more, and I get it. He's right in some ways, but I think we take the admonition of Jesus Christ quite literally, that, when thou doest alms, do not let your other hand know what thy one hand doeth. But that causes issues too, because then everyone loves to accuse us of, you're just hoarding money like a dragon, la 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 la. And it's like, are you kidding me? You have no idea how much, just because we have a lot of money that we spend on the upkeep of the church and our temples and our spreading temples everywhere that we can. It does not mean that we are forsaking or not doing anything for the poor. That is like always the constant drumbeat. Oh, a new temple goes up. Oh, why didn't you just open a homeless shelter? Why didn't you? It's like, because we do. We have bishop storehouses. We have welfare areas, and it's just, but no, it's unless what they really want is tear down all your places of worship. Give me the money because I know how to spend it better than you, and I would spend it on all of these things for welfare. Who cares what you're doing for welfare? It's not good enough. That's really what it is that they're saying. Because do they take up the fact that, like, when we point out that, hey, no, we've got all these things in place, family services, welfare services, job placement services, we've got bishops' storehouses in all sorts of places. And the more that the church grows, the more that those come up. And yet, despite all the welfare and help that we do all over and all the donations that we send to all these other places, that's not good enough. They walk right past it. They will look at our temples and say, well, you should have torn it down or turned it into a homeless shelter. Wouldn't it be better if you housed the homeless instead? And it's like, we're already doing that. We're already helping people out. And so what's the point? If they ignore what we are doing that is good, and they still want the places of worship turned down into what they want, what they're really saying is, I know better than you, and all these places of worship aren't worth anything. You should help the homeless. It's like, it's very short-sighted, because on the other hand of that, here's why I would say it's very important to have houses of worship. Because if you help the entire population be of better means, spiritually, education, etc., as we're going through right here, then you will need less of homeless shelters and welfare. Now, the poor will always be with us, so we'll kind of always need it. But the more self-sustaining a population is, through education and through hard work and good work ethic, the less need you'll have of it. And that's a good thing. Anyway. A newspaper columnist from London, England, Mr. M.J. Barrell, visited Salt Lake City and Utah, during which time he made the study of welfare program. He later wrote, "The action of the Mormon Church in establishing its Social Security program provides a lesson which might be copied with advantage by every country in the world." Thank you, Heber J. Grant. Visitors to Welfare Square in Salt Lake City, a factory storehouse complex that is similar to welfare projects and achieves throughout and activities throughout the church, have stated it is a pattern for our federal government to attempt to follow. This is the most wonderful thing I've ever seen, and I hope to come back again. This, to my way of thinking, is a real religion. We believe your church and its members are doing the great deeds that may someday achieve a true brotherhood of man. A renowned lecturer who was in Salt Lake City to address a service club declared that he had seen some of the church's welfare activities. Your welfare plan should engulf the world, and I have no doubt after seeing it in operation that one day it will be the master plan for Christian living. Throughout the welfare program, the church has not only cared for the needs of its members in the United States and Canada, but also shipped by trucks, trains, ships, and planes many thousands of tons of food and clothing to members in distress in various parts of the world. The church has assisted tens of thousands of persons who have been victims of wars, floods, earthquakes, and other disasters at home and abroad. Not only has this help been extended to Latter-day Saints, but also benefited many persons who are not of our faith. It truly is a program of brotherhood in action, and throughout the whole world. And I pray we keep it up, because I think it's going to be needed more and more. Millions of dollars have been contributed by members of the church, as well as untold millions of man-hours to assist the needy and distressed throughout the world. Members make direct financial contributions to the welfare program. In addition, they fast one day each month, abstaining from 2 meals on fast days and contributing the value of 2 meals to the church as fast offerings. In this way, all church families are invited and given opportunity to participate in assisting others in need or distress. Comments on the church and its achievements. Sorry, I'm thinking about inflation and how it's been carving out a lot of people from just when we start to prosper, it's now back to penny pinching. And how I think about my children, and I think about, probably when I was a kid, generously donating to fast offerings would have been like $20. Now I sit here and go, would 40 be enough? Would 60 be enough? Is that really going to be enough to help those who are ailing? I think anyone and everyone who donates with fast offerings helps a lot. I think more than anything, the Lord blesses back those people who are willing to sacrifice. Comments on the church and its achievements. Many persons of distinction have visited and observed the church activities in Salt Lake City and in other parts of the world. Among the comments made have been the following: Utah excels in the number of Boy Scouts reached in proportion to the population. There are more boys in advanced rank of greater percentage of Eagle Scouts than any other section of America. Utah is setting the standards for the whole church. The Mormon Church is the largest factor in this achievement. That's from Boy Scouts of America. Well, that's done away with. Times have changed, but now we have new counselors that are from YouTube that are for the young men that hopefully will get something really going again. I want to give you some of my impressions of Utah as a sociologist. I am, first of all, favorably impressed with the Mormon Church. I don't know of any other place where the young people are so well provided for as the state of Utah. I don't understand how the Mormon people got the idea of providing for the recreational and social needs of people so much earlier than we sociologists got the idea. The church was way ahead of us in making this discovery. I have never met so many fine young people as I have met here in Utah. And that's Dr. E.A. Ross, sociologist of University of Wisconsin. 2 years ago, I was asked by an audience to tell them which group of citizens were making the greatest contributions to civilization as I had witnessed them in my travels about the country. I told them it was a difficult question to answer. I said that they had asked me 21 years ago, when I had not traveled about at all. My mind was very provincial and biased. Who are the most undesirable class? I would have unhesitatingly said the Mormons. But having traveled almost every year for 16 years and having learned to know these people, I've come to feel that the most desirable people, having the highest standards of morality and virtue, are the Mormon people. Dr. Charles E. Baker, ambassador to the Youth for Royal Rotary International, in an address in the Salt Lake Tabernacle. All too little is known by non-Mormon or Gentiles of the admirable civilization built up in Utah. By the use of a system of irrigation, the first in America, the Mormons made the desert an agricultural paradise. The town planning was intelligently done in a period when in the rest of the country communities merely straggled into existence. The fruits of the early system are now evident in the beauty and prosperity of the cities of Utah. The first newspaper and the first university west of Missouri were established by Mormons. Their educational system started early, embraces schools of higher order, literary societies, theaters, and libraries. The culture and prosperity levels of Utah are far above those of some other American states, nor can the culture of Utah be separated from the religion of Mormonism, for that religion is interwoven with the fabric of life of the state. If we are to accept the dictum of Jesus, by their fruits ye shall know them, we must rate the Mormons high. The Reverend Charles Francis Potter, The Story of Religion, page 527. A college president who taught at Brigham Young University a few years ago made this statement at the close of his service there. It may well be that the Mormon people have the key that will eventually save this country. Here are a few of the comments of some of the visitors of the church exhibit at the 1964-65 World's Fair in New York. There is hope for the world with people like you. More of this, no doubt, shall save our world. I've seen nothing equal to it as far as religion is concerned. I am reading the Book of Mormon, and it is a revelation. I believe it is the truth. Our message for the world. As a summary of the discussion of the fruits of Mormonism, we may now refer to an address delivered in general of the Conference of the Church by Elder Mark E. Peterson of the Council of 12, which summarizes some of the accomplishments of the Church. We Latter-day Saints have a message for the world. It is divine, and it declares to all mankind that God has spoken from the heavens in these modern times. The crux of our message is that Jesus of Nazareth is Christ the Lord, the Redeemer of all mankind. He is the Savior of the Christians and the Messiah of the Jews. We are the people committed to sobriety of good character, to honest and righteous living. We teach virtue and chastity and basic cardinal principles of our faith. We advocate the stability and preservation of the home. To us, the family is the cornerstone of civilization and must ever be. It is the foundation of proper human relationships. We teach our men and women fidelity in its loftiest meaning. We believe that each of us is a spirit child of God, and that the Lord intends that we shall so live, that eventually we may be perfect, as our Father which is in heaven is perfect. See Matthew 5:48. We believe the family was intended to be an eternal unit, to be projected beyond death and the resurrection into the everlasting and immortal life. It is to prepare ourselves in worthiness for such a destiny that we teach this high standard of fidelity on the part of both husband and wife. We have but one single standard of morality for us, for all. To our constant cry is, "Be ye clean, that bear the vessels of the Lord." Doctrine and Covenants 38:42. We are generally a healthy people. Dr. James E. Enstrom of the UCLA School of Public Health reported in the Pasadena Star News last April 9th that the incidence of cancer among the Mormons is 50% lower than the national average in Utah. The cancer death rate is the lowest in America. With respect to lung cancer, LDS women have only 31% of the national average, men only 38% of the national average. For cancer of the esophagus related to alcohol usage, the figure of Latter-day Saints is only 11% of the national average for women and 34% for the men. These figures are provided by Dr. Joseph F. Lyon, director of the Utah Cancer Registry. The Statistical Abstract of the United States for the year 1971. Bureau of Census reports some interesting figures in which Utah and the rest of the nation are compared. All states in the Union are listed according to frequency of incidence of the diseases which I shall mention, with these states placed lowest on the list having the least number of cases. For disease of the heart, Utah ranks 46th place. Influenza and pneumonia, 49th. Cerebrovascular disease, 46th. Arteriosclerosis, 49th. Cirrhosis of the liver, 45th. Bronchitis, emphysema, asthma, 30th. Tuberculosis, 50th. Venereal, 50th. Major cardiovascular and renal diseases combined, 50th. Diseases of the cardiovascular system, 50th. Vascular lesions affecting nervous system, 50th. Hypertensive, 50th. Infectious diseases, 50th. Complications of pregnancy, 46th. Infant mortality, 50th. When speaking of these figures for the state of Utah, it should be kept in mind that about 30% of the total population do not belong to our church, but they are included in the Utah state statistics. Our church has been a leader of promoting youth development through Boy Scouts, which we feel is an effective organization for the training of boys of all nations, creeds, and peoples in the United States as a whole. Only 23% of the available Boy Scouts age are registered as scouts, but among the Latter-day Saints, the percentage is 85. The United States, 1.5% of the registered scouts obtain their Eagle Award. Among the Latter-day Saints, it's 4%. In 1974, our church, as a sponsoring unit for scouting, ranked second in the United States in the number of sponsored units. We were exceeded only by the Parent Teachers Association. They sponsored 20,800 units. We sponsored 14,344 units. Following us came the United Methodist Church with 13,789 and the Roman Catholic Church with 11,734 units. In this day of juvenile delinquency, we are greatly heartened by the fact that of the 256,000 teenage boys in our church, 70% are actively associated with the church, and 238,000 girls of comparable age, 73% are actively associated with the church. Think of this. Can you match this anywhere? Think of it. 500,000 teenage boys and girls devoted to a church which prohibits liquor, tobacco, and premarital sex. Try, if you can, to duplicate that anywhere. You will be interested in our Sunday school attendance. 59% of all our little children are in Sunday schools every Sunday, and of the teenage group every Sunday, 60% of all LDS youth are actually present in their classes. The educational background of the church is reflected in the number of our people who have reached places of prominence in the United States, Canada, and the world. Mark W. Cannon, Administrative Assistant to the Chief Justice of the United States, in a discussion titled The Mormons in the Executive Suite, said that a recent study shows that among 471 leading business institutions of America, more of their presidents were born in the Utah in relation to its population than any other state of the Union. Utah produced one such president for each 62,000 persons of population, compared to one for each 205,000 nationally. Currently, 61 Latter-day Saint men are holding positions as either president, chairman of the board, or vice chairman of the board of America companies listing assets of more than 10 million. Many Latter-day Saints hold major positions in corporations with assets exceeding 75 million. Latter-day Saints have filled cabinet positions in the United States and other important positions in Canada. We have our generals and admirals in the military forces. Our people have served regularly in the U.S. and Congress over the years, as well as in the government bodies in Canada. For example, in 1952, there were 15 holding seats in Congress and other top federal positions. Now there are 28. Latter-day Saints have served likewise in important positions in the Federal Reserve Board of the United States Customs Court, U.S. Tariff Commissions, and federal housing positions. Dr. Harvey Fletcher, a Mormon high priest, developed stereophonic sound. Another Mormon, Philo Farnsworth, developed television. Mormons have been world presidents of Rotary International and Lions International. They've headed the American Medical Association, American Bankers Association, various scientific societies. They've also held many other positions of importance in scientific research, business, and finance. Our message is solemn. Our message is true. Our people are substantial citizens, law-abiding, intelligent, and progressive, as all who know us will agree. Our pattern of life, as you see, is adequate and ample evidence of the credibility of the divinity of our mission and message. It is out of a background such as I have described that we do issue our great religious message to the world. That's the conference report of 1975. In the words of Jesus, we say to the world today, as he said when he undertook to establish his church in the meridian of time, if I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. But if I do, though ye believe me not, believe the works. John 10:37-38. By their fruits ye shall know them, continued, chapter 28. And a summary. I will leave that for tomorrow. I hope to finish this just before Christmas, and then I don't know if I have another book on ready, or we'll see. And I've got a lot on my plate. But if you have not read, please read The Light and Truth Letter. It is online. It is for free. It is downloadable as a PDF. You can buy it for a couple of bucks because it's like at cost if you want. But I have read the Light and Truth letter. I think it is vastly more important now. I think there is a lot to be said that we should continue to support what I would say real education. And what I mean by that is education needs to start in the home. We cannot rely on our public school system completely anymore. I think we need to start with, especially the foundation of, if you're not exactly homeschooling right now, if you're not already homeschooling, and you're not wanting to homeschool, that you should be effectively doing the same as homeschooling, at least a little bit, in the things that matter most: reading, writing, and mathematics. I regret that I have not been able to be there for my children because, hey, I got my physics degree. I'm great with math. But I haven't been able to sit down with my children and help them all that well because they keep saying, oh, yeah, I did my homework. And I was like, oh, really? So, but sitting down with your children and helping them with their education. You know, you don't have to homeschool. If you do, fantastic. If you send them to public school, that's fine. It's not that there's not a complete dearth of information. It's just that we need to raise their own standards higher. There's also things like charter schools and whatever else as well. And I think we should encourage them, go to college, but go if what you want to do requires it. If you're going just to get a service job somewhere, go get the service job now. Don't go into the debt. It's sad that I have to sit there and say, is it worth it now? Because if you're going to be a doctor, absolutely. If you're going to be an engineer, absolutely. If you're going to be going to the science degrees and engineering and design, do it. Go to college. I strongly recommend it for all sorts of reasons. And like I said, even though I never monetarily got anything out of my degree, it has blessed my life significantly. And sometimes it's the need for that struggle that's important. When it comes to welfare and everything, I would hope that the way that we do it, the ones where it's like, hey, let's get you self-sufficient and let's help you progress in life. I would love for the government to get out of welfare completely. That government is reduced down to and restricted to only the absolute necessary functions for each level of government that it should have. And everything else should be provided through private services and through personal organizations, churches. And if you're atheist and you have a problem with churches, create an atheist church or an atheist community, a center. Hold your own, services for that sense of community among atheists, among all these other things. I think it would be much better if we all did that. I think, unfortunately, the government has grown way too big for its britches. I think it should help to bust up monopolies. I think it should help protect the individual. I think it should, and even more than the individual rights, that it should protect family rights. The reason there's a big difference between those two is that individual rights, you can get into pretty gray areas. But if you focus on having legislation that supports the family more than anything, well, that's an entirely different ball of wax, because then it's like, well, you do away with a bunch of gray area for individual liberty. Because it's like, well, do you allow for such vices as open and rampant pornography and prostitution, or alcohol and substance abuse, like legalizing all drugs and legalizing all this and all that? You know, if you're an absolute individualist, you will say, well, that's their choice. You better let it happen. Whereas if you focus your laws on family, then that's not even close. Those gray areas go away. Pornography would be banned, prostitution would be banned, substance abuse would be banned. And the reason why is because it's not good for children and it's not good for society. I understand individual liberties. I think it's very important that we all have our own agency. At the same time, I also think as a society as a whole, we should put vices on the back foot. I think we should take the fight to the vices and say, no, you don't want that. It ain't good for you. You know, I want to right to the jaw and get him out of there. The difference is by what means. And that's where a good debate can be had. Should it be done through the force of government, or should it be done through the pressure of taboo and societal pressure? And can we help people see the value of that societal pressure? There you go. Just enjoy debate for hours. But most importantly, like, if here in the Church of Jesus Christ, you can see the good fruits of this. So by avoiding bad vices, even minor vices, our health has been better. Our outlook on life has been better. It's fascinating. Like, read the Light and Truth letter. The reason that is so good is the CES letter was nothing but a gish gallop of everything that could, woven together in a narrative that was a lie. It truly was. If you look into the origins of it, basically, it was this guy who was running around and gathering all this anti-Mormon stuff, and then he wove it together in this story of sending it to someone who apparently worked in the CES, church education system, and went from there, except when you look at the origins, the story falls apart a bunch, and then it just became because it stuck to the wall and became something that was passed around. Well, that's their new banner, basically. But the problem was it being a gish gallop of falsities. And that's really what it is. If you take each one, you can pick it apart real easy. But the problem is that most people don't want to do that because it's a gish gallop. Because they just say, a gish gallop is where they just throw everything at you, even if it's completely false, like literally an absolute lie. And they may or may not know it's a lie, but they just throw it out there anyway. And they do it in such rapid succession, it gives the illusion that perhaps there's something there. If there's smoke, there must be fire. Where instead, it's just someone who is lighting lies on fire. Their pants are on fire, and they're wafting that smoke in your direction. So, the Light and Truth letter actually goes through and shows how what they're talking about is false, and most of it is just stupid, simple, easy stuff. And then on top of that, the focus has changed. It used to be, when I was way young, a little kid, people would try and go after the truth claims of, is the Book of Mormon true? Or are these historical things mentioned in the Book of Mormon true, or anything like that? It's changed a lot. Not only do they focus less on the Book of Mormon, the focus, I know, in the 90s was all about DNA versus the Book of Mormon and against the Book of Abraham. Those were some DVDs that came out. But yet, the Book of Abraham, especially if you read Jonah Barnes and the Apocryphal Works, you can see how right it is. But, so I don't know if that's still going to be going strong or not. But the type of claim against the church has changed. Instead of, they'll throw in, this is false, or this is false, or this is ridiculous. It's now come down to ridicule of, this is ridiculous, or this is causing harm. That's an entirely different set of arguments, because everyone understood growing up that religion is helpful. Believing in Jesus Christ Having good health standards is helpful. Having high religious scruples of, hey, don't have sex before marriage, get an education, do good in life to be successful. All these things have great outcomes. But now they're turning it around and saying that that's harmful, that encouraging people to have strong fidelity in their families is harmful because it's oppressive, even though you avoid STDs and broken up marriages and horrible mental and emotional outcomes for the individuals and everyone in the family. But that's oppressive? It's oppressive to have a good standard that helps you avoid all that, because it tells you that you shouldn't do it. It is an outgrowth of the woke movement, basically, which is socialist Marxism, which is, let's view things in oppressor-oppressee language. And anything that tells you no is an oppressor. If it's your own conscience, that's an oppressor. If it's any institution saying, hey, you shouldn't stick a fork in an outlet, they're oppressing you. It's just like, really? Let's not do that. So there are plenty of debates to be had among people who are conservative and liberal on finer, nuanced points. But I will not tolerate at all the absolute horror show that is viewing life in the oppressor-oppressive system constantly, especially when it is calling good things bad and bad things good. I will not hold anything back when it comes to criticizing that. If you want to talk about how we go about trying to help the poor or helping anyone who wants to come to America, fine, no problem. But to have people just jump up and down, red-faced, with all sorts of flags and colors and whatnot, saying about how evil people are who are trying to keep law and order, that they're evil, when they're just saying, I would like to have law and order be followed. That's not good. When you are calling those who are trying to do what is right bad and evil, not exactly I will not support them in any way. And we live in strange times where that's occurring. And so I hope that when people actually take a step back, take a breath, and realize, wait a minute, maybe I should support basic morality, we'll be good to go. And then we can argue the nuances of all sorts of different doctrine and policies and whatever else. But just understanding that the basic idea of love one another and that we should uphold morality and standards is a good thing. Yeah. Hopefully we can come back to that. or at least start ignoring the louder fringes. I think that's probably the better way to do it. Ignore the louder fringe and just keep your head where the Jesus Christ wants you. Keep the Spirit with you. If you remember Jesus Christ and his sacrifice, you have his Spirit to be with you, you can learn to tune out the rest of the world. Just feel the Spirit. Feel when you're without it. Do the things that give you the Spirit. Let go of the things that take you away from it. And with that, hopefully your day is brighter, and may the Spirit of God be with you.